Hello and welcome to Up Up Download, the podcast where we talk about the industry and art of video games. My name is Sterling Matthew Oliver.
And my name is Jacob Edelman Dolan. Today is our first episode. We've been looking forward to this moment in our lives for a really long time as two cis white men. It is a rite of passage to start a podcast.
So today we wanted to talk about the games that made us, the games that we played from childhood through today that have made us the people that we are. And so, Jacob, I would love it if you would start us off. Talk to us a little bit about like the earliest consoles that you had and like some of the games that you had for those. Like, what's the earliest memory you have of playing a video game?
Totally. So I think that, gosh, I mean, I definitely, when I was at school, I definitely saw people who had like Game Boys and stuff like that, and like pocket handheld games. But the first time I really ever played a video game, like really played a video game, was I went over to my best friend at the time, Daniel, his house down the street. He lived 2 doors down from me, and we played Mega Man. It was fucking awesome. And I had never experienced anything like that. We played Mega Man. What was that? Was that the SNES? What was that was on? I'm trying to remember. But I think it was the original Mega Man game, and we just played, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And but here's the thing is that like I played it the first time, but I wasn't like confident in my ability to play it. I was really psyched out. So like for the first, maybe year of playing Mega Man, I didn't actually play video games. I watched Daniel play the games. I felt very out of my element. I felt very self-conscious.
So he was your first Twitch streamer then.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly right. He was my first Twitch streamer that I just watched in his living room. And I was like, oh, yeah, you should do this and then you should do that. Only there was no text chat and he wouldn't do the things that I wanted him to do.
And you didn't have to donate to him to get him to notice you.
I did not. I think all I had to donate was the occasional cookies from my mom. But yeah, so like that's how I got into video games, and eventually I begged my mom and dad for a PlayStation, which I did not get, and then I begged and begged my mom and dad for an Xbox 360, which I then did get. For the next I think like 2 years. On the Xbox 360, I played nothing but like arcade games because that's what they got me. They got me an Xbox Arcade, which I don't know if you remember, but the Xbox Arcade had no memory. It had absolutely none. Yeah, no, it was basically like, gosh, it was like I couldn't tell you how many megabytes it had or anything like that, but it had basically none. It had enough to play the arcade games that it came with.
Interesting. No, the Xbox was my least played console that I had owned. I literally just got it to play Call of Duty with some friends, basically.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That makes sense.
So I don't remember much about it at all. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but for me, it was such a formative experience because that was like my first real console, which is interesting since that. I mean, that's really interesting. I mean, that I started like gaming at such a later stage as far as like the console lines than you did. Eventually where my journey began to really kick into gear, I think, was when my father, after months of me begging him to please get me Halo, he got me Halo secretly. Halo 3. He secretly got me Halo 3, did not tell my mother about it, or at least if she knew about it, they tricked me. They totally fooled me because up until that point I was playing Monkey Ball until my father secretly, at least to my knowledge, bought me Halo 3 and he told me this is my game. This is my game. This is not your game. This is my game. I'm only letting you play it. And of course, I was the only one who ever played it, and I loved it. I fell in love with Halo from that moment on. And the rest is history. I am still the biggest Halo fanboy. I've read like half the books, and I'm a simp for Halo. I'm a Master Chief simp.
Exactly. You're like the how Stephen Colbert is to Lord of the Rings.
Oh my God.
I guess Stephen Colbert has the benefit of being one of the first people to experience Lord of the Rings, whereas you didn't get into Halo till number 3. But
it's true.
Your retroactive knowledge, I think, can absolutely make up for any long-time Halo fan.
God, the amount of time that I spent on, God, what was that called? I think it was the app that was the companion to the Halo games on the Xbox. So it was like the
would they have just called it Cortana, or would it have been something else?
It was like an encyclopedia app that had all of the Halo knowledge on it. I'll look it up later so I can see if I can try and figure out what it was called. Oh gosh, I feel so silly not remembering it. But I spent hours just looking up like the biography of like the different species. Like that was when I learned that hunters are actually giant worms in suits of armor. It's useless information.
When I was playing the Master Chief Collection for the first time, this is embarrassing, but for the first time like a couple years ago, I remember there being like the Halo channel. Was that maybe what you're thinking? Or is that...
Yeah. Okay, and so it turned into the Halo channel. So it didn't. It wasn't originally the Halo channel, but yes, it now is the Halo channel. It's the same thing though. That's exactly what it was. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, but originally it was called something else. It was. Oh gosh, I'll look it up later. But yeah, but now it is. That's exactly what it is now. The Halo channel on Xbox. Absolutely. But yeah, those are my formative game years. Those are the games,
the early ones.
The early ones. Let's talk about you, Sterling. Let's talk about what got you into the old button pressing.
Yeah, so I had a very I'd say a very different experience than what you did. So I don't really remember seeing other people with video games ever. I don't remember even really knowing what a video game was before I got my first. I very well could have. But I was 3 or 4 years old. And for Christmas, this was Christmas in the year 2000 or 2001. My parents got both me and my sister each a Game Boy Color. I got the clear purple Game Boy Color, and she got this like really disgusting green, like solid green color thing. Mine came with Mickey Mouse Clubhouse Racing or something. It was a Mickey Mouse racing Game Boy game. My sister got Pokemon Crystal. I kept trying to sneak her game and play so much more of that, but of course the way Game Boy cartridges worked was that game data was saved on the cartridge and not on the console.
That's right.
So if I ever wanted to take her game, I would pretty much have to play in her world, because those early early Pokemon games would also only have just one save file.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, I started with second generation Pokemon was basically what it was. And of course, like, those cartridges also have a battery inside of it. So like, I don't know how much you know about those Pokemon games, but we're at the point where now first generation, second generation Pokemon games, some of them are losing save data and can't load because the internal battery has run dry.
Oh no.
And it's possible to change that battery. And I believe if you catch it before it dies, you can actually change it and keep your save data. But yeah, there are old save games that are just disappearing now because of it. But yeah, that was my first experience. I'm pretty sure it was probably my sister that had brought it up to them. She's 3 years older than I am. So like, that would have been around the time where she would have been like, oh, I see my friends playing this thing at school. Can we get one?
Definitely.
course, we grew up in a very small town, and we went to we're not Catholic, but we went to a Catholic grade school.
Oh yeah, you've told me about that. I think that's so interesting.
And so I think that's I could definitely see that being where, because we lived two blocks away, so it definitely wasn't like a oh, I saw this my friend playing it on the bus thing, because there wasn't a bus. We just walked there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I got started. And then I don't remember much. I do remember there being nights where eventually I got Pokemon Gold, which was also a second generation Pokemon game. And there's one distinct memory I have of my sister and I playing Pokemon in her room. And I don't remember if this was Pokemon Gold and Crystal or if this was a later game, but we were both playing our respective copies, getting really far in it and trying to beat the Elite Four. And then we look out the window and the sun is rising. And it was my first time playing video games all night, and it was a complete accident. It was my sister and I playing Pokemon.
That's so good. Oh, that's
yeah,
such a
I have
good
no idea.
gaming memory.
I know, and I have no idea like at what point in time this happened. But I do remember that it wasn't long after that we got a GameCube, and I do remember my sister telling me that she was the one who had asked for the GameCube. And so this was, when did the GameCube come out? Let me find out real quick, because we got it not long after. It was November 5th, 2001 is when the GameCube came out.
That makes sense.
And I remember we got it with Super Mario Sunshine, which came out the next year. So I'm pretty sure it was Christmas of 2002 that we got our GameCube. Played a lot of Super Mario Sunshine.
I was going to say, you love Super Mario Sunshine.
It was my first experience with Mario. It was my first 3D game. My first, like, real experience with storytelling. Because Pokemon, like, obviously had a story, but that's not why you play Pokemon. And so, yeah, Mario Sunshine was my first experience with platforming, storytelling, 3D worlds, all that stuff. And I remember just loving Flood, the little robot that Mario has on his back.
I love that.
And then that bled into like Animal Crossing. So we played the original, the first United States release of Animal Crossing. We owned that with the memory card. There was a special Animal Crossing themed memory card that came with it that had just enough blocks to hold a town on it. And you could have 4 houses. And so only one person could play at a time. But my sister and I got to play in the same town, which was the first time we'd gotten kind of a multiplayer experience.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Okay, so that's so interesting I'm sorry, I just love it. That
yeah,
it
was really smart of them to do it like that, because you have a town square with 4 houses in it, and so you can have 4 people playing this game, and that saves data because you still have just the one town.
Yeah.
Like how on the Switch, on the new Animal Crossing game, each Switch console, at least at first, could just have one island. I don't know if they've changed it since then. It doesn't really pertain to me, so I didn't pay attention. But yeah, no, we could. And if we had friends, I think we actually did have a friend build a 3rd house that just like never really got upgraded because, they could play it a lot less than we could.
Yeah, they didn't come over
us
as
living
often.
there. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
But I remember
I just have an image of like these 4 houses, and 2 of them are decked out. One of them is like kind of shabby, and the last one is just not even there.
Exactly. Well, because the houses are always there, and so if nobody's moved in, then it's still just this tiny default house.
Makes sense.
And Rossetti was also an iconic character that I remember to this day. Rossetti is the guy who would pop up. The GameCube had a reset button on it, where if you push it, it just like hard resets the entire console and starts the game from the beginning. Not doesn't like delete the game. I mean, it just like it starts the game from launch.
Sure.
And so Rossetti, his job was to notice when that happened and you hadn't saved your game yet. When you leave your house, he's a little mole that would pop out of the ground and be like, "Hey, why'd you reset the game without saving? You're going to lose all your saved. You're going to lose like everything that you did. You can't do that anymore. And every time that you did it, he'd get progressively more and more angry. And eventually he'd start like doing the thing where he'd say a sentence and he'd be like, you have to type out this sentence for me. And he'd like a keyboard would come up and you'd have to type out, I will not reset my game or something like that.
That is so good. That is such good game design.
Exactly. And it taught me from a very early age to obsessively save my data. But Animal Crossing did it in a way it's like you had to go back to your house and talk to this thing outside your house, and that's how you saved the game. So it wasn't like pressing start and save like most games. Well, now we have autosave everywhere, but
unless you're a Dark Souls game where they make you hard save every single time. And if not, they yell at you, thank you FromSoft.
And I know this isn't really relevant to the games that made me. I just really love what they did with Rossetti. Is that the first? If I could be remembering this completely wrong, but I don't think I am. Is that the first time you do this, he's like, "Hey, don't do this anymore. I saved your data for you this time. You're good to go, but don't do it again."
I love that.
Which to this day confuses me, because I'm like, if they had the technology to do that the first time, why wouldn't they just keep doing it?
Yeah, if they have autosave, absolutely. No, that's the kind of thing.
Which is why I'm wondering if I'm remembering it wrong, because it's like surely they would have kept doing it if they had the technology, but I don't remember.
That's an interesting thing. This is completely off topic, but I mean,
who cares?
Who cares? But yeah, that's definitely a thing. I feel like I definitely played games when I was growing up that like had the capability to have an autosave feature, like technically had it, but then like built in like the ability to like delete your save data if you did it wrong or if you did it too many times. Like they held your save data hostage.
Really?
Like I don't know if that's, I could be wrong. I could be entirely making this up. This could be a what's that called? The effect. I'm just misremembering things.
Mandela?
The Mandela effect. This could just be complete garbage. But I feel like that was a thing. Like we had the save data technology, but we just chose not to do it. I don't know.
Well, and if you think about it, like especially today where autosave is so commonplace, it is a really smart thing to do to play with the idea of a save, because like up until the GameCube and the original Xbox and the PS2 and stuff, I think the PS2 was PS2 was original Xbox era. I think it was also GameCube era, because I think the PS1 was Nintendo 64 era, if I'm recalling correctly. And if I'm not, then I'm sure I'll have some angry, disappointed friends in my DMs at some point,
DMs,
correcting me. But even if you have that capability, you could play with that idea of like, okay, now we have the ability for you to save, but if you go overboard, we're going to do something to like screw with you, because it's like, great, now you're making sure that you can never do anything wrong, because you always have something to fall back on. It reminds me in a way of like Toby Fox and Undertale, where in Undertale your save file becomes a part of like the game, where there's a character that like notices your save file and is like, oh, I'm going to destroy your save file now. I feel like that could be a really interesting design choice just in any game, is to play with the fact that there is this thing that is recording the history of your character that can just be deleted, and you can just remove progress from people.
I love that. That's I'm going to say two things about that. The first thing is that I haven't played Undertale, and each new thing that I hear about Undertale makes me want to play Undertale more. And it's just a snowball effect where like I know so much about this game without having played it at all, and that is a new thing, and I love that. But that also reminds me the second thing that I was going to say was that reminds me of classic. This is bear with us here, folks. We're breaching into non-video game territory, but that reminds me of in classic D&D. There were like monster stat blocks that
D&D's
could
close enough.
Yeah, it's close enough. Yeah, there were monsters that could level drain you.
Oh,
Yeah, and so there were
I
monsters
haven't heard about this.
that could, Clay, one of our friends, Clay, likes to talk about it all the time, where there were monsters that would come in and like suck levels from you and say, all right, I mean, now you're like a 3rd level fighter instead of the 7th level fighter you were. Wow. Yeah. And you'd have
That's a good way because you hear about those campaigns that just go on for years.
Absolutely.
That's a good way to keep them in perpetuity.
Totally. And I was actually thinking about this is, oh gosh, we're getting so off topic, but I don't even care. It reminds me of like right now we're meeting some of our old characters, or at least we're about to in one of the games that I'm playing right now with Clay. And like, for example, one of my player characters, my old player characters, is I've made her into I think she's like a 7th level NPC for Clay to use. And like, I mean, obviously she used to be like a 20th level character, right? And her coming back in as like a 7th level NPC doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's a really good narrative way to kind of justify that kind of thing, is like, they're 20th level. They ran into, I don't know, a CR30 creature that level drains, and now they're, they beat it, but now they're level 7,
Yeah.
Anyway, that was completely out of what we were talking about. But
I mean, we know that's going to be a thing. We can't have I almost said D&D podcast. We can't have a podcast about video games where we're voice actors and artists without talking about a TTRPG every once in a while.
I think that's a good point.
And we'll be talking about film and TV and theater and
the
and
things
books
that we like. Yeah,
plenty of other things. This isn't just video games.
No. But if you wanted to continue talking about your formative video game years, continue on. You were talking about.
Yeah, because I got very off topic with Resetti and Animal Crossing and stuff. Let's see here. So yeah, we had the GameCube, we had Animal Crossing, we had Super Mario Sunshine. We got Mario Kart Double Dash was my first experience with Mario Kart. Ooh. We got Smash Brothers Melee, I think was the GameCube one. First experience with a fighting game. So I got the original fighting game experience. I got the original racing game experience. Got the original 3D storytelling experience. Got like the Animal Crossing, I feel like was the closest thing to a live service game that you could have had in that time period, just because it had stuff set up for all the different holidays and seasons, and it had different events that happened in game. They're just hard coded into the game instead of it being like a update that happens like with Overwatch and stuff now,
Yeah.
And so I really got this full experience with the GameCube before, like, I remember eventually like getting Pokemon Blue, giving that to a friend on the school, or giving that to a friend who then gave it to one of his friends on the school bus, and I never saw it again.
Oh man, I had so many of those kinds of experiences when I was a kid.
It sucks. I feel like that's just kind of something that's got to happen at some point.
That would happen. That would happen with me with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. But I digress. Yeah, keep going.
We did something with Pokemon cards where there was a move that we didn't understand. We didn't play it right, first of all. Anyway, we just kind of fought Pokemon against each other until we got bored. We might have done like we picked 6 Pokemon and put them out or something, but there was a move we didn't understand, so we were just like, oh, this means that we take and keep the other person's card until eventually there were feelings that got hurt, notably mine, from losing cards that I didn't want to be taken, and so I threw a fit about it, and then we stopped playing it like that.
That's about right. Yeah.
But yeah, eventually I got a PlayStation 2. And the only things I remember from the PlayStation 2 was, one, I got a Need for Speed box set it wasn't like a full box set. It was like 3 games. The only game I played from it ever was Most Wanted, because the other 2 just didn't seem interesting to me. But the other big thing, of course, was Kingdom Hearts. My other favorite series that has stuck with me all of my life. I am currently looking at my Keyblade, my prop Keyblade on the other side of the room.
Definitely.
I'd say that's the last big thing that happened to me as like in becoming a quote unquote gamer was getting Kingdom Hearts and experiencing this, because I was never a huge Disney fan. Actually, I enjoyed Disney films. I really enjoyed Pixar films, but like the classic Disney movies, I had seen some of them, but I don't remember many of them. And honestly, there's some of them that I don't think I've seen more than once. And a couple of them I don't think I've seen at all. And for some reason, Kingdom Hearts still just stuck out to me. And I've still never really played Final Fantasy. But Kingdom Hearts was, for some reason, just such a blast. I think I had friends that were into it, and I think that's why I got into it. I think that was one of the few times that like a friend has influenced getting addicted to a new series of games.
That's so interesting. That's a really interesting contrast. Excuse me. That's an interesting contrast between you and I, where like I think that most of my video gaming experience has been like purely social. Even my my single player experiences when I got to college, like when I started getting into your Mass Effect and Dark Souls, when I started getting into those were still like communal experiences to me, because the people I was living with at the time were into those games. And so we would talk about them, we would talk about the mechanics of them, and then I would play it, you know? But
yeah,
I don't have a whole lot of single player, like, oh, I'm playing it on my own for my own like singular enjoyment, which actually just to take a break from that, it kind of makes perfect sense as far as I'm concerned. I'm just a big old extrovert, and I get all my energy off of other people, and so it would make perfect sense that my gaming is kind of intertwined with that, you know.
Exactly. And it made sense for me because it was just me and my sister, and we would teach each other things, and occasionally when we got access to the internet would find stuff on the internet, especially about Pokemon, try things out. I came from a very small town. I had like my graduating class was like 50 maybe. And there weren't a lot of people that were very interested in video games. I eventually found more people as I got through grade school and into middle school and high school especially. But it was very much just kind of me and my sister thing, with occasionally like our neighbor friends or something. Until college, where where we met, and then we met other people and began to get into a whole lot more thing. I guess it's something we talk about later, but like Call of Duty in high school was also a big step.
Oh my God. Oh, Call of Duty in high school. Call of Duty was so big. I have no doubt that like that if you and I knew each other, we would have played Call of Duty like every single night with each other.
Yeah, because I had friends where I did do that, where we played zombies until at least, and this in high school for me, this was real late, until like midnight we would be playing zombies. And I to this day still think that I am that not that I am, but that I was at the time one of the best zombies players in the town.
I love that for you.
Anybody take me on. I'll destroy you. I don't know if that's true or not, because there was people like a few years older than me that I knew played that I'd never played with. But I obsess over the mechanics of games like that, and like Minecraft and stuff. And so I like learned as much as I could about it and how to do it really well. And so I took it really seriously. I mean, the same thing happened, honestly, with we had a tiny quarter arcade. Oh God, I think they might be closed now. I haven't actually checked in a while. but I remember they had a Super Mario Brothers machine set up, and I don't know where in my timeline this happened, but I do remember going and playing Super Mario Brothers and having the experience of having somebody be like, hey, at the end of World 1-2, the first underground level, ride this platform up and run along this wall and just keep running off to the right. And that's where the first warp zone is. And so I do remember having the experience of having people like give me like tips and pointers and hints to things. And that's where I started to get obsessed with like, oh, there's a way to optimize every time I play through this game. Of like just being the absolute best. I think that's why I like games a lot, is just being able to constantly find new ways of being efficient and being really, really good at what I'm doing.
This makes sense why you're interested often in speedruns and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I find myself trying to speed run productivity. Like when I'm editing audio, or when I'm editing video, or writing or doing homework or something, I'm always finding ways to be like, okay, if I set up this macro, I could do this thing really quickly and really easily. It's going to take me 5 minutes to set this thing up, but once I do it, it's going to save me like 30 minutes of work. Like I just go off.
See, that's so different from me. Whenever I'm like, all right, I need to do this thing, I put it off until, I
put it off. That's
die.
why I come up with the productivity stuff later, is to save time, since I put it off for so long.
I love that for you. No, for me, it's like I put it off, and then when it comes time to do it, I will sit down and I will spend as long as I possibly need to until the very last moment doing it and just praying that it gets done. And it's very, very much 11th hour, hoping that, my best work happens under pressure. Bullshit. But that's what I do, because that's who I am.
Exactly. So after you started getting into Halo,
yes,
as you got into the Xbox 360 years, do you know how long it was into the Xbox 360 that you got yours?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. I think that it was definitely out for at least a year or two. Because I mean, by that time, all the Halo 3 servers were fixed.
Was there an issue with Halo 3 servers when it came out?
From what I understand, yeah, or at least people talked about it like there were. But I think that since Halo 3, okay, I don't know if it was actually an issue with the Halo 3 servers, but there were definitely problems with the Xbox 360 when it launched. I know that Halo 3 was the Xbox 360's launch title, as I remember. And so when the Xbox 360 launched, it had lots of bugs. And eventually they fixed them with like updates and stuff. But I think that the Xbox 360 was notorious for its buggy release. But eventual stability came to the system. But yeah, I came in after all that was done, so everything was fine. But I came in and I played the ever-living crap out of Halo. And then eventually I started to bond with my friends. Go ahead.
How much multiplayer did you do? Did you just do the story, or did you mostly do multiplayer?
So I played... That's actually pretty interesting. I loved the campaign. So that's why I got so into the lore stuff, right? It's because I played the campaign.
Yeah.
And then I read the plots of the other two games, and then I read the plots of like all that stuff, right? So I was obsessed with the campaign, but I definitely did play the multiplayer with my friends and on my own. I definitely loved it. And I would always push to play Halo whenever we would decide, my friends from school, middle school, whenever we wanted to play a game, and we all had Halo and we all had Call of Duty and all that stuff. I would always be the one to advocate, all right, guys, can we play Halo? And they'd be like, no, we want to play Call of Duty. And so I'd get overruled. But, I played a ton of Halo 3 multiplayer, and I was garbage at it. I am still, to this day, absolutely awful at multiplayer shooters. But they're my favorite games, so who cares? I'm genuinely bad at video games, which I think is hilarious. That I have created a video game podcast with you. truly. I think the best games that I would say I'm maybe good at are, I don't know, maybe Dark Souls. I think maybe I'm decent at Dark Souls, but even that I'm just maybe average.
You've beaten a Dark Souls, which is more than I can say.
Well, there's that, but I still haven't beat Sekiro. I'm like maybe like,
Yeah, I gave up on Sekiro.
it's good but really hard. It is not
so hard.
It is not like Dark Souls. When I bought it, I definitely heard everybody say, "Oh, it's not like Dark Souls. You can't play it like Dark Souls. It's a different game altogether. If you play it like Dark Souls, you won't be able to like get into it at all." And I heard that, and I thought, yeah, whatever.
The thing I find interesting about it is that it's not like Dark Souls in the sense that in Dark Souls, the way you get ahead is, I could be wrong here because I didn't play a lot of Dark Souls, but I think the way you get ahead is just by dodging all the time. Just pretty much constantly dodging and then trying to land some hits.
It definitely depends on your playstyle, but that is definitely a valid playstyle. Yes.
Whereas in Sekiro, you have to counter. You really need to be good at timing, making sure you're timing your hits just right so that you can get these really powerful counters off. Because if you don't, you're never going to be able to hit anything.
Yeah, I think that there are some that's actually a pretty interesting thing to talk about, which is that there are in some games like your Dark Souls where there are a variety of ways to play the game. You can definitely play as a tank. You can get your big old shield out and you can hit people with your slow sword and deal lots of damage, or you can do little nicks with your dex playthrough, right? But in Sekiro they say, all right, you have a dex parry build. There are a few variations you can do on it with your mechanical arm attachment. But really, you have to play the game at least like one specific way. Most of the time, which I think is really interesting in a world of like RPGs where like, I don't know about you, but RPGs are my favorite game type, other than shooters. I think I say, oh, shooters are my favorite game. Oh, RPGs are my favorite game. Really, I love them both so much that I don't want to ever have to put myself in a situation where I actually have to choose. But that is beside the point.
Exactly. I don't think I could choose.
But in a world where RPGs are like, all right, you have all these choices. It's really interesting how developers sometimes find a way to like limit those choices in game design, but also still like make it a fun role-playing game. I don't know. That's maybe something that's a bit more, I don't know, abstract than what I'm actually getting at. But I think there is something there.
And actually, I said that I couldn't choose, but I do think actually if I had to pick my favorite genre, it would probably be either puzzle or platformer, or ideally both, a la Portal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which honestly is yet another like that's one of those high school formative games for me.
Me too. Actually, I think that maybe our tracks.
You probably played Orange Box on Xbox 360 was Orange probably Box. What you did.
Absolutely, that is 100% what I did. I still have it.
I did not. The Portal experience for me was quite different in that, like I remember one day I had gone to a friend's house. We were working on there's this competition for the game SimCity, where you would build a city and then you would take a section of this city and you would make a real model of it. And then you would present it at this competition. And we went over to Lawrence for this and we did this competition. And
that's awesome, by the way.
It was really cool.
I love that.
We had no chance because it was all about the infrastructure of a city, and we kind of did it, but we were talking about like we knew much more about how to win at the game, not win at building a city.
Yeah.
And I think that was actually really interesting how we approached it like that. And the judges actually kind of noted that they really liked that, because they were like, we've had a lot of people come in here and talk about the city, which yes is probably more the goal of the competition.
Yeah.
But we talked about the game a lot more.
I love that.
But this same friend, one day we took a break, and he showed me Halo. Halo was my first ever first-person shooter. And then we went upstairs, and he showed me Modern Warfare 2. Tried Modern Warfare 2, fell in love with it, started mowing the lawn at my dad's shop all the time to try and save up money to get Modern Warfare 2, got Modern Warfare 2 for the computer, got banned for aimbotting because I thought it was funny and cool. I realize now how shitty it is. I'm a terrible person, I know.
Oh, you didn't know
saved
better.
up for exactly saved up for a PS3, got a PS3, got Modern Warfare 2 again. Played on the PS3.
I love it.
Like it was pretty much just Call of Duty for a few years at this point, with a few random like indie games here and there, until I got a computer that could run a few games. And this was I could probably run a Google search right now and figure it out exactly, but there was a few months before Portal 2 came out. This was right around when Team Fortress 2 went free to play on PC. That Portal had a free play weekend. I missed the free play weekend just barely, but I saw the trailer for this game. I was like, this looks like a lot of fun. And I think I bought Portal, or I might have honestly pirated it, but I feel like I bought Portal. And I played through it, and I fell in love with this game. And Portal, to this day, I think might be my favorite video game. I say that as in, like, I think Portal and Portal 2 together make up my favorite video game.
Yeah.
Because I remember then a few months later or whatever, when Portal 2 came out, that was the first time, like I talked about earlier, how I'd stayed up all night to play Pokemon with my sister. This was the first time that I had stayed up for a game to release and then played that game all night. And I was a very crappy laptop I was playing on. It was very choppy. The frame rate was low all the time. But, I mean, it just goes to show how amazing of a game Portal 2 was, that I was still just blown away by how cool this thing is.
Absolutely.
And it's just like, it honestly changed what games could be for me, because I hadn't played very much stuff with comedy in it. Like Mario was lighthearted fun,
but not explicitly.
It was very much a kid's
comedic
game. Exactly. Portal was not a kid's game, but it was a comedic game.
Mm-hmm.
And
which is so funny, because it's a puzzle game with adult content, which
with
is
platforming,
with platforming and like physics mechanics.
It's not adult content might be saying a bit much. Like it wasn't explicit, but it was very. I mean, it talked about murder and
it's very
stuff.
dark humor.
Like it was,
for sure.
It's dark humor for sure. And it plays with this. The thing I liked most is that it played with the arcade idea of a game, where it's like an arcade game was just something you'd sit down, you'd play. There's not really, if there is a story, it just talks about it a little bit, maybe on the arcade cabinet or like on a sentence in the title screen or something. That's kind of what Portal did, was that GLaDOS was just there to explain to you the stuff of the game until she's not just doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And then and then all of a sudden, halfway through the game, you start to notice those rat caves, I think they called them, where that scientist had written on the walls, and all of a sudden, oh, now I'm part of a story.
I think that when you finally like get into the plot of it all, it's like, oh, I'm in on this secret that you could kind of, I mean, it feels like you're, because you can miss those first moments, right? You can miss those rat holes. You don't have to get in them. I mean, the game progresses with just the puzzles, but I mean, eventually those little Easter eggs inform the rest of the plot, specifically.
And
like,
God, and you
the last
feel so
tenth of it.
smart.
Oh
You
my
feel
God,
so
yeah.
smart at the beginning of the escape aperture moment where you're going in and you shoot the portal on the wall and you're like, oh, I'm such a genius. I'm breaking this game right now. And then it's
Absolutely.
like, oh, they want you to do that.
They're intending on me to this is the way you play the game, and then the rest of the
Yeah.
game is such a rewarding experience where you just kick robot ass.
Exactly. And it just feels, and it constantly feels like you're behind the scenes of this video game. Just like getting to re-experience some levels, but like having broken them in the process.
Absolutely. And I think that gosh, I love how simple the final image is too. Well, I mean, not the final image, but the final image with Shell, where you're in a parking lot, and that's it.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
you don't
like-
even see her. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's just like, I mean,
Oh,
I've never been.
I don't know if this is true.
What was that?
In that image, I don't know if this is true, but I think they were expecting when you wake up on the parking lot, there's this metal ring that falls in front of you and bounces and kind of rolls towards you. They were expecting that to be a meme. And they were
Really?
preparing for that. But Cake is the Lie. Cake is Alive is of course what became the meme.
Yeah, that's the meme.
I think they were preparing for that to become the meme of the game, which I thought
That's so
that's just
funny.
one thing from that shot that I find really funny.
Developer intent versus actual product reception.
You know about the update to that ending, right? In prep for Portal 2?
Maybe inform me.
Oh. So when the game first came out, basically the shot was Shell like waking up, seeing outside, seeing that ring fall, seeing the trees in the parking lot and stuff.
Yeah.
And then go cutting to black and you saw the cake, you saw the arm snuff out the light on the cake, and that was the game.
And the wonderful song.
Still Alive, Jonathan Colton.
Amazing.
Jonathan Colton wrote the theme song to Code Monkeys too, as well. G4 TV was also a huge part of my
Oh
formative.
my God, G4
And
meant
I'm so
much to
happy
me.
it's coming back.
Yeah.
Because G4 is honestly a big. I really wanted to be a game developer, and then I got into theater, and now that we're shut down to a pandemic, I'm like, oh, I want to be a game developer.
I wanna be a game
but
developer
before,
again.
Before we talk about that, it's really interesting what they did in Portal because when they decided, yeah, we're doing Portal 2, when they started announcing it, they started this alternate reality game, I think the ARG of they added radios to every level in the game. And if you carried this radio to a certain area, it would start playing this thing and it would play this audio file that if you stuck it through a spectrogram would show you an image that would start teasing Portal 2.
Okay, I had no idea.
But they also changed the ending to the game in this update, where if you remember when you first start the Aperture escape at the end of that last test chamber,
Yeah.
and GLaDOS starts to glitch out, and she goes, "We are pleased that you have passed our final test," or whatever. She says, "Please lay down on the ground and assume the I can't remember exactly what's like the subject escort submission position or something like that." I kind of want to find, actually I could probably really quickly, let's see your Portal. Thank you for yeah, it's the party escort submission position is what they call it.
That's so funny.
And so they updated this game. So now, after the ARG started, when you beat the game, you're laying there and you hear a robot approach you. And he says, "Thank you for assuming the party escort submission position." And he starts to pull you, and Shell like gets pulled off a little bit. And that was the new ending to the game. And so they basically retconned it. That's how they retconned Shell getting back into Aperture for the beginning of Portal 2.
Oh, that's brilliant. See, I just thought she was a clone.
Oh, really?
I just thought she was a clone. I just thought that she was a clone, and then they made like, I don't know, 8 of her, so that she could, I don't know, keep playing the the simulations, the test chambers.
I get you. Yeah, the test chambers. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because it's something that we never would have experienced with our original, like, well, I guess you started with the Xbox, but like when you were, what was it, Star Fox you were playing with Daniel?
Oh, it was Mega Man. Yeah.
Mega Man. Exactly. With those Mega Mans, with my experience with Super Mario Sunshine and stuff, that's never something we'd, one, never get bug patches, but two, we'd never get a retcon or an update to the story of a video game.
No, we wouldn't.
And Portal is one of the first times I can remember from my study of video game history of hearing about a game story being edited.
Wow. I love that.
In game. Yeah.
What a cool update.
I geek out about Valve and Portal and stuff. Like, obviously right now I'm playing through Half-Life Alyx finally, and so like I if you want Portal trivia, I'm here to answer.
You're the man. I love it. That's so good. Yeah, I love that so much. I mean, and that's one of those things that it never ceases to amaze me. Just the things that these game developers do, because they love their games. They very obviously love their games, and they want to keep. I mean, Portal, and objectively is I'm trying to work that word out of my vocabulary, but I think it's a perfect game. I truly do.
I do too.
A game where, you know, the developers of it, they love it so much, and, you know, they're so excited for their next product that, you know, they're totally willing to go in and say, all right, you know, this perfect game that you all love so much, we're going to tweak it just a little bit to tease our next labor of love.
Perfect game.
Yeah, exactly.
Our new perfect game. Because Valve knows how to tell a story. That's their thing. And that's why I was so happy about Half-Life Alyx. I just bumped my microphone, and hopefully it wasn't super annoying. That's why I love Half-Life Alyx, is because Valve pioneers gaming technology.
Yeah.
The technology used to create Portal is very unassuming, but it's a lot to create the Portal mechanism. And Half-Life was one of the first 3D storytelling games, because we had like our Dooms and Quakes and stuff coming into it, but Valve was like, you know, we can do this better, and they created Half-Life. And of course, Portal takes place in the Half-Life universe, which I also love, and I hope that someday that comes to fruition, more than just a couple references here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they're iconic storytellers, and they care so much, and the way that company is run allows them to make these fantastic games. And I'm happy that they're coming back to it, because we had that long period of time where they pretty much just focused on Steam and like I like Dota.
Yeah, more of like a kind of just simply a software company.
They were a software company.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's called Valve Software. I have the Party Escort bot Wikipedia page up right now, and I just read some really funny trivia about him. In that, well, first off, the line that they added for the bot in Portal doesn't have a subtitle, and it also wasn't translated into other languages, so it would only have the English version. But also, because you don't see the bot in the game, they need something for the sound effects to come out of. They use they used the texture of a bean can that you find throughout the game.
That is so funny.
And so if you go into third person and watch this scene, you just see this bean can, and if you shoot a portal on it or anywhere near it, it will crash the game.
That is so funny. That reminds me of Wet Hot American Summer. I don't know if you ever watched that, but there's a talking can. I love that.
I forgot about that. No, I finally watched it a few years ago when the Netflix TV show came out.
Yes.
And then I finally watched it, like the original.
Which I love that we get like the origin story of the bean can, the can in that.
Yes.
It's just so funny.
Yeah.
And I love H. John Benjamin so much. I think he's
H. John Benjamin's iconic.
So good.
His book is awesome.
He has a book?
Oh yeah, he's got a book. It's the book is called "Failure is an Option: An Attempted Memoir," and there's I want to find the exact text because there is a chapter in the book. Here it is on Reddit. There's a chapter of the book called "How I Failed at Differentiating My Two Characters of Bob and Archer."
That is so funny.
This chapter is 2 sentences. I did the same voice. The end.
Oh my god, I love him so much. I did the same voice. Oh man, that is the kind of cheekiness that I want out of
And on this Reddit post, the top comment is he honed his skills from his experience as a can of soup.
Yes, amazing. I don't want to break the microphone, but I am clapping in my head right now. I love it.
Gosh, I'm just like, I'm about to, I think as soon as we're done recording, I'm going to fall down a Portal rabbit hole because now I'm just geeking out about Portal again.
Do it. I think, hey, go for it. I think that perhaps now might be a good time to sign off because I am very hungry.
So. I think we're going to have to do, we're getting up to that hour point and I think we're going to have to do a part 2 of this because there's still so much to talk about.
There really is. Hey,
our college years.
For part 2.
Exactly. Well, we're gonna be back. Let's see here. This is coming out on Friday, January 8th, and so January 22nd, yeah, we'll have part 2 of this wonderful story. We'll probably fill in some holes that we missed of earlier games and
no, absolutely, because that really reminds me. I'll leave it for next time, but I completely forgot that I owned a Nintendo 3DS.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here. I just saw a picture of Luigi's Mansion, and I'm like, oh yeah, that Luigi's Mansion is also one of my favorite GameCube games, and all this. Lots to talk about. Much to think about. Yeah, so thank you all so much for sticking with us for this hour. We really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, make sure you subscribe or follow or however you do the similar thing on your podcast service. Check us out on social media at UpUpDownload. We've also got our website at which is upupdownload.com. Send us a tweet, send us a message if you want us to talk about something. If you got some feedback, if you got some comments, definitely reach out to us, chat with us. Yeah, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks, and very excited to see you all.
We love you. Presumably.
Yeah, we love you so much. Probably.
Probably.
Yeah, we love you. Probably.
Yeah.
See you then, everybody.